All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Script Wars. So we are going to get started. I got Joe Geary with me. We are going to get into scripting, and let me talk for a minute about why scripting is important. Because I hear a lot of agents that will say, "Well, I don't want to sound scripted, or I don't like scripts, or I don't need scripts, or scripts don't work, or this or that." And I'm an avid. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a huge believer in scripts. Scripts have made me a much better realtor. They've cut my learning curve. They have helped me make a lot more money. And to be honest, even if you're not a big fan of scripts, or you say scripts don't work or this or that, you probably utilize scripts in your business and you just don't realize it. Like chances are, if you go on a listing presentation, you probably say similar things on your listing presentation every time you go on it. That would be considered a script. Maybe it's not a learned script, but it is a script that you've put together over time because you have a consistent message that you're delivering when you're on those presentations. Now, for the people that say, I don't want to sound scripted, well, I totally get that. And what I often tell people is that scripts were designed by super successful realtors. So the way to not sound scripted is to get really good at saying them to where it becomes your own dialogue and it just becomes a natural part of your conversation. And so, of course, you're going to sound scripted in the beginning when you first start on these because it's new. You're learning something new. It's going to sound scripted, but over time, it's going to sound like just a natural dialogue or natural part of your conversation. So Joe has been somebody that's practiced with me for a long time. Started with us in 2018, correct, Joe?
Yeah, that's correct.
2018. Yeah, so 6 years now. Over 6 years. Joe and I, when Joe first started with us, we script practiced every single day for years. Not just like a little bit, but it was every day, Monday through Friday for years, for about 30 minutes to an hour. So Joe's gotten really good at scripts. It's shown. How many deals have you closed and pending so far this year?
I think about 32.
32. So he's got 32 deals closed and pending so far this year. It's really good. Scripts work, and that's why it's important. So we're going to dive in. We're going to jump into running through some expired scripts. We'll probably hit some internet leads and maybe circle prospecting as well. So let's dive in. Also, if you have objections, maybe you've faced objections or you've come across objections that you're like, hey, I didn't handle that well, or I didn't know how to handle that, let us know. Drop it in the comments. We'll talk through those objections as well. So make sure you're any kind of challenges you're having, drop them in. But let's dive in, Joe. Do you want to? I'll be the seller, you be the agent. We'll go first on the expired. Works. Sound good?
Expired.
All right, perfect. Cool. All right, so I am an expired seller. So keep in mind, real quick, expired sellers. Oftentimes, their house, it didn't sell. Expired or canceled. If it's expired, their listing agreement ran the length of time. It's expired or canceled. Means they probably canceled with the realtor. They fired the realtor. Who knows? A lot of these calls, these sellers can be a little cantankerous, a little bit angry. They're not super pleased with their last realtor, typically. So these can be a little bit of a challenging call. So being able to overcome objections on this is very important. Let's dive in, Joe. Hello.
Hi, is this the owner of 123 Main Street?
Yes, it is.
Hey, my name's Joe. I'm actually a realtor, and I was calling because I saw the house recently came off the market. Just out of curiosity, did that house end up selling, or is it still available at this time?
No, it didn't sell, but we're not. We're just taking it off the market.
Okay, I completely understand you didn't sell it. And just out of curiosity, if you were able to get top dollar for it in this market, do you think you would consider putting it back on the market?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we were on the market for 30 days. We didn't get a single showing. Yeah, I'm just not interested in doing anything right now.
Okay, I completely understand. And just based on the pictures, it looks like a very nice home. And just out of curiosity, why do you think it didn't sell?
I don't know. I mean, our agent told us, this is a market where it should have sold, and we feel like we priced it. We priced it a little bit more than we're, a little bit higher than maybe we should have. But I don't know. I just feel like not to get a single showing, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just out of curiosity, when you do sell this house, where are you planning on moving to?
We've got a place at the Ozarks. We're just downsizing, and we're gonna move there permanently. We spend a lot of time there.
Okay, so it sounds like you already have a house that you're planning on moving to in the Ozarks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And how soon were you wanting to be there?
As soon as it sells. I mean, we're in no big rush because we've already got the place there, but we'd prefer, we wanted to be there for the summer full time, but now we're, still dealing with this.
Okay, absolutely. And Michael, it sounds like your agent probably did everything they could to get the house sold. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, and yet the house didn't sell, and I'm convinced that it's probably not for a lack of effort. It's more likely in the approach. I think your house just simply needs a new approach to get it sold. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and Michael, most agents do what I call are the three P's of real estate. They place a sign in the yard, place your house in a few different websites, and just kind of pray that some other proactive agent like myself comes along and brings a buyer to get it sold for them. And unfortunately, that's not the best strategy to get a home sold. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, so Michael, I'd love to take 10 or 15 minutes of your time so I can show you exactly what myself and my company will do to get your property sold for top dollar. Do the evenings or the afternoons typically work better for you?
Yeah, I mean, who are you with?
Yeah, so the name of my brokerage is a Network Global, and personally, I've been in business for over 6 years and have sold over 200 homes.
Interesting. Okay, I haven't heard of you guys. Well, I mean, what do you do differently? I mean, I know you're saying more proactive, but what do you do differently?
Yeah, Michael, were you aware that every one out of three homes sells through realtor to realtor communication?
No, I was not.
Yeah, so that's a big part of our marketing that a lot of agents unfortunately don't even focus on. And one of the biggest tools that we're able to utilize when we are focusing on our agent to agent marketing is something called reverse prospecting. Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I'm not.
So what we do with reverse prospecting is we're able to see all the potential buyers that might have interest in your home, and we're able to proactively reach out to those agents and potentially get them in the door and get you an offer right away. And that is what you'd be looking for, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'd love to get an offer right away. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. So what I love to do is I love to set up a time where we can sit down for 10 or 15 minutes. I can show you exactly how this works and how we could get your home sold and get you to the Ozarks in the next 30 days. What would work better for you? I have some availability tonight at 5, or would tomorrow at 3 work better?
Probably tomorrow. I got to talk to my wife. But what do you charge from a commission standpoint?
Yeah, Michael, it's a great question. And the investment in our services is completely negotiable. And that's something I'd love to talk to you and your wife about. I understand you want to talk to your wife. So why don't we just pencil in tomorrow at 3? That way it gives you time to talk to your wife. And if anything comes up, we can always reschedule. How does that sound?
Yeah, I guess that would work. Okay, that works.
Okay, perfect. I will plan on seeing you tomorrow at 3. And Michael, just to confirm, your address is 123 Main Street.
Yes, it is.
Perfect. And is this a good cell phone number for you?
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. I will go ahead and send you over my contact. And what would be a good email address for you so I can send over some information about myself?
You send it to michael@gmail.com.
Michael@gmail.com. Fantastic, Michael. Well, I look forward to seeing you at your house tomorrow at 3, and I will talk to you then.
Sounds good. All right, appreciate it. Good job. Very good. Awesome. Good job. So you overcame every objection I gave. Went really well. So what Joe did really well, a couple of things. One, he got to motivation pretty quick in the conversation. And that's going to be super, super important, is figuring out, had this home sold, where are they planning on moving? So he found out my goal was to get to the Ozarks. And tonight he knows that I have a reason or a why or a need to get this property sold. Because here's the thing, you want to uncover that motivation early on in the conversation so you can utilize it. Because what typically happens is if we don't get that motivation, they're like, no, I'm not interested in selling. And people say, oh, okay, I understand. But they had their house on the market for a reason. All right, so he uncovered the motivation. He knows now that I wanted to move to the Ozarks, and we can figure out then, is that still the goal? Is the goal to get to the Ozarks? Yes, it is. Well, fantastic. If we can make that happen, would you be open to that idea? So also, I gave him a put off of, I need to talk to my wife. I'm not really sure. So the good script there is to pencil it in. So totally understand you want to speak with your wife. I definitely want to make sure she's part of this process as well. And hypothetically, if she were on board, would do evenings or afternoons typically work better? Well, usually afternoons. Great. Why don't I just pencil it in for tomorrow at 3? And after you talk to your wife, if that doesn't work, give me a call back. So now you've got a tentative appointment. Typically, those appointments will stick. If you say, yeah, just call me back after you talk to your wife, 95% of the time, they're not calling you back. So Joe just penciled it in. Now it's in pencil, right? So we're tentatively penciling it in. They don't feel like they're fully committed to it, but that those appointments tend to stick. And what I would also say too, he did a really good job of, was he gave me 2 options, either tonight or tomorrow. And typically on expired appointments, or any appointments for that matter, the sooner you set them, the higher the probability of you going that appointment is. What I mean by that is if I set an appointment right now for this evening, got about a 95% chance or so that I'm going on that appointment. If I set it for tomorrow, my odds of going on that appointment are probably 90%. If I set it for 2 days from now, it drops to like 75%. If I set it for next week, there's almost 100% chance that appointment's going to cancel. So you did a very good job of, when you set these appointments, make sure they are for like now, right? As soon as possible. I want to go on this appointment tonight or tomorrow at the latest. And then also very good job of getting contact info. So that way you can send information. I find it very, very If you can take your listing presentation, here's what we've done. Take our listing presentation, break it down into an email. What is my marketing plan? What am I doing from a marketing perspective? I'm going to put that in an email as well as put my online reviews in there and send that to them prior to going on the appointment so they can read it, review it, check me out, check out our company, this or that. If you don't have online reviews, use Network Global Reviews for now. There's 30 plus on there, I believe, on Google business page, but utilize reviews. Start getting reviews from your clients. That stuff will help as well. What do you think, Joe? Anything you missed? Anything you could have done better?
Yeah, I think it's just big to, like you said, hammer on that motivation. Sometimes people will basically just say, hey, I want to wait until next year or the spring. And really, that's just an objection. They're just trying to get you off the phone and be like, okay, great, I'll follow up with you in 6 months. But really, they're still ready now and they just want to get you off the phone. So I think it's important to dig into that motivation because sometimes they're just putting you off. And then also creating a sense of urgency because what we're all seeing right now is that inventory is slowly starting to creep up and a lot of homes aren't selling as fast as they were maybe 6 months or even a year ago. So I think it's important to create that urgency with sellers right now that, hey, right now is still a great time. 6 months from now or a year from now, we don't know what the market's going to look like. It could be more balanced or it could shift to a buyer's market and you might not be able to, sell your home as quickly or get as much money for it.
Definitely. That's a fantastic point. And here's what's going to happen. As we approach kind of the fall and winter, those are what we call seasonal objections as well. We hear that a lot. I'm going to wait until after the holidays, especially right after Halloween. I'm going to wait until after Thanksgiving or after Christmas. We're going to wait until after the new year. We're going to list it next spring. A lot of agents still advise people to wait until spring to list their homes. If it's the winter, don't do that. So there's a couple of things too. And again, this isn't going to you won't get a ton of these objections until later on in the year. But think about this. Homes still sell in the fourth quarter. Homes still sell in the first quarter, in a good amount of homes. So don't wait until springtime to list your property. Another script to use with that as well is totally understand you want to wait until next year, and may I share a concern with that? So Joe, and let's just say hypothetically we're in like September timeframe. Well, we're going to wait until after the springtime. So what happens is a lot right now, a lot of people start to pull their homes off the market, Joe. And what also happens is we get a surge of relocation people moving into the area that need to get their family settled prior to the end of the year. So we have less inventory to choose from, and we have more people moving into the area that are motivated buyers that need to buy a home. So don't you think that sounds like a good recipe to get your home sold? Less competition, as well as more people moving into the area?
Yeah, it does sound pretty good.
Yeah, so wouldn't it make sense for us to list your home now rather than waiting until next spring when there's going to be a lot more inventory and the market's going to be more uncertain at that point as well? Because right now, Joe, we know we're still in a seller's market, so we can still potentially get you top dollar. So why don't I do this? Why don't I just come out for 10 or 15 minutes and share with you my marketing plan and what I do to get homes sold and how I've helped hundreds of sellers just like yourself whose homes were on the market previously and failed to sell with another realtor. And I can share with you exactly what I do to get homes sold. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Great. And then you close for the appointment. So that's another way too to keep in mind. Relocation. Companies do their hiring and firing in the fourth quarter. Oftentimes you get a surge of reload people moving into the area that need to buy a property. And that's what we want. We want motivated people. Now, another thing too, people say, I don't want to be bothered, at the holidays. I don't want showings at Christmas. Well, here's the upside. The upside with that is like maybe you'll have less showings in the winter than you will in the spring, because a lot of times in the springtime you get people out. It's a nice day. They're out just looking. Well, maybe if we find the right house, we might consider moving. But if you get somebody coming to see your house and there's 6 inches of snow out there, they probably need to buy a property. They're probably very motivated. So we're going to get more motivated people into our property, which is exactly what we want. So any other thoughts on that or comments? Or if you have questions as well or objections, drop them in the comments, please.
Yeah, I was also going to say whenever they give you their time frame, I think it's important to ask what's important about that because sometimes there might be a condition. So if you just go straight to the script or the objection handler, they might feel too pressured because say they're like, hey, I need to wait until the springtime because that's when my kids get out of school and you're trying to get them to sell now. They might feel turned off by that. So I think it's important to uncover the why or the reason behind them wanting to wait before you try to dig in more and handle that objection.
Definitely. Yeah, totally agree with that. That's a great point. So figuring out that why behind it, because there is absolutely a big difference between an objection and a condition. An objection is, well, I'm going to wait until spring because I think it's a better time to sell. A condition is, well, yes, exactly to your point. my kids don't get out of school, or we're absolutely waiting until my kids are out of school before we move, or the house is in probate. We can't sell it until the attorney finishes up the process. Like, that is a condition. That's not really an objection. So there is a difference between the two. And Sherry asked, let's see, is there anything else you tell them besides reverse prospecting that sets you apart? So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can say, Sherry. And what you want to make sure is that you don't get too wordy with this where you lose them. And that's why Joe did a good job of just throwing out the reverse prospecting. But there's a few other things as well you can do, as far as one of the things we do is we get your home on over 350 different real estate related websites. We utilize reverse prospecting. Are you familiar with what that is? So those are two things right there that we can talk about. We can talk about how proactive we are in reaching out to agents and picking up the phone, and how we talk up your listing to other agents in our office, and how we run internet ads, how we, lots of things like that. So I feel like that's super important, but you don't want to get too wordy with this, because that's oftentimes what happens as well, is people tend to set the appointment and then they keep talking and keep trying to sell themselves. And then they keep talking and keep talking and keep talking, but the appointment's already set, let's say, and then you lose the appointment because you're talking too much. So it's good to plant a couple of little seeds and keep moving, and be cognizant of the fact that we don't want to continue to talk and talk our way out of the appointment. So I think that's super important as well. David says, I always ask them what they didn't like about the other agent, or what they think the other agent could or should have done differently. So I don't do the same thing they didn't like before. Yeah, totally agree with that. I think that's a good point as well, is to figure out how their experience was. And I ask this 100% of the time on the appointment. When I'm on the actual appointment, I'll ask, what did you, out of curiosity, how was your experience with your last realtor? And then they're going to tell me, well, they didn't want to do any open houses, and I love open houses. Well, now I know I need to probably talk about open houses and my strategy around that, to make sure that I'm not saying, well, I hate open houses. Okay. All right. Go for it. Hi, is Joe?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, this is Joe.
Hi, my name is Michael. I'm a realtor in the area, and I was calling about your property at 123 Main Street that came off the market. Is that still available, or did it end up selling?
We actually took it off the market.
Oh, you did? Okay, you took it off the market. Now, is there a goal, or do you still have plans in the future to want to get that home back on the market to get it sold?
Yeah, we're just going through a lot of issues with our condo association right now. We just can't get nobody seems to be able to get financing for it, so we're just going to wait and see if they can get that fixed.
Totally understand. Yeah, that's been an issue with some condo associations, unfortunately. And so when you were on the market, did you have any offers?
We had one, but they weren't able to get financing because it couldn't go conventional.
I see. Okay. And so if you were able to get a buyer that could go conventional or could finance the property and get you an offer that's acceptable to you, would you still consider selling it?
Possibly. It just doesn't seem like there's anybody out there that really wants to buy a condo right now.
No, I totally understand your thought process around that. And to be honest, condos are still selling. And what I'd like to do is just come out for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and share with you my marketing strategy. And we can look at some options to potentially market your property in a different way to attract those buyers that can afford the home in order to get you sold. And out of curiosity, had your condo sold, where were you planning on moving to?
We were planning on moving to Florida.
Oh, that's exciting. What's taking you to Florida?
Just planning on retiring, and we actually bought a house out there, a vacation home, a few years ago, and we're just gonna move in there permanently.
Oh, how fun. That's great. Yeah, Florida's a great place to live. So that's super exciting. And is the goal to get there relatively quickly as soon as this condo sells?
Yeah, I mean, we're in no huge rush though, just because we can kind of go back and forth for right now between the two, but ultimately we'd like to get rid of this condo.
Okay, totally understand. So that's the goal. Get this sold potentially and then get to Florida to the condo. So if I could show you a way we could potentially generate more traffic and more qualified traffic and get you an acceptable price and get you moved to Florida, would that be beneficial?
I mean, possibly. Do you sell a lot of homes in the area?
We do actually, yeah. We sell a lot of homes in the area, and my company does as well. And here's what I'd like to do. I'd love to just come out for 10 or 15 minutes, share with you our marketing plan and how we've been able to help sellers just like yourself get their property sold. Would you have some availability for me to come out maybe later today, or would tomorrow be better?
Maybe tomorrow, but could I maybe get back to you tomorrow morning and let you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That totally works. And just so what I'd like to do is my schedule fills up quickly, and I'm sure yours does as well. Why don't we just tentatively pencil something in for tomorrow? Would around 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock tentatively work better, that we can just pencil it in?
I usually get off work at 4, so 5 could probably work.
All right, perfect. Well, let's do this. I'm going to tentatively pencil it in for tomorrow at 5. And tomorrow morning, if you find that that does not work, just give me a call and we can always reschedule.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect. So I'm going to plan on coming out tomorrow to 123 Main Street at 5 p.m. What I'd also like to do is I'd like to send you an email with information about myself as well as my marketing plan, so you have some time to review that. What's the best email that I can send that to?
Joe@gmail.com.
Joe at Gmail. Perfect, Joe. And then is this a good number I can text you information to as well?
Yeah, that works.
Perfect. I'm just going to text you my contact information also, and I'll plan on seeing you tomorrow at 5.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. All right. Cool. Where could I have gone differently? What could I have done differently?
I think that was good. The only thing maybe is because that's one objection. I know we didn't really touch on it earlier. That some sellers have sometimes is, hey, I want an agent that specializes in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the script, and you handle it pretty well just by saying, hey, we sell a lot of homes in the area. Had I maybe dug a little bit deeper, I could have been like, well, how many homes have you sold? Or, what homes have you sold in my neighborhood? I think it's important to let people know that, hey, most of the time, a lot of buyers that are looking are moving from outside of the area or even out of state or out of the city. So it's important for us to cast a very wide net, not just here locally, but all across the state and across the country and the world as well. And through our internet marketing, we're able to achieve that.
Exactly. No, great point. And that there is a script. So download our script book as well. That script is in there. So yeah, no, great point. And Leo, if you could drop the script link in the comments, that'd be awesome. But just as Joe mentioned, because here's what happens. People say, well, I'm going to hire and it's not as relevant, I feel like, as it was in the past, but people would say, I want to hire the neighborhood realtor, or we want to know somebody that's in the area, that sells in the area. And here's the thing, the likelihood of somebody buying a home already living in their subdivision is actually quite low. So as Joe mentioned, we have a much greater chance of finding people from outside the area. And that's why we're going to utilize our marketing to get in front of relocation buyers, to get in front of the 97% of people that are starting their home search online by getting it on every single available website. And that way we're going to cast a wide net to get as many potential buyers into this property as possible. So just keep that in mind. If they're like, well, we want to hire, so-and-so because they're the local realtor. Well, there's methods that we can utilize to attract people from outside of the area to make sure we're getting as many potential buyers into the area as possible. So again, if you have questions as we're moving through these, drop them in. Let's go. Anything else we want to touch on with expireds, or does anybody have questions on anything we've gone through with expired so far?
Yeah, one thing I'd say, and that's why I brought the condos up, is there's a lot of condo associations right now that simply can't go conventional. So I think if you are planning on calling expireds or canceled and you're calling condos, I think it's important to almost recognize that right off the bat, and be able to let them know that, like, hey, I have lender partners that, can do untraditional loans that, if we do find a qualified buyer, they could work with that, potential lender to get the property sold.
Agreed. Yeah. Be solution-based. Very, very important. So yeah, totally agree with that. Very solution-based. And Sherry asked, where do you get phone numbers of those people on expireds? No question is a bad question. So a couple of services you can use. There is RedX, a company called RedX that sells expired, canceled, for sale by owner, circle data. Mojo Sells, MOJOSELLS.com is another service that has a dialer or like auto dialers. It also sells expired. Then Leo's dropping links in there. They sell expired data, for sale by owner data. Land Voice is another one. There's a lot of these out there, but Land Voice is another pretty popular one. Land Voice. And then Vulcan 7 is another one. So you can check all of those out. The pricing is going to vary on each of them. So, and the data as well. So keep in mind too, not all phone numbers are good, right? You're going to come across bad phone numbers. You're going to come across things. And here's something too, I think that's important. If you get somebody that you call, because people ask me, what happens if they just hang up on you right away? So what I've done in the past, somebody hangs up on you. They're like, not interested, F off, this or that, and they hang up on you. What do? You call the next person. So like that's going to happen, right? Just people are like, well, what do I do in that situation? How do I handle that objection? You don't. If somebody's that pissed off that you upset that you made a phone call to them and they tell you to F off, because it will happen, unfortunately, you call the next person, you move on. It's not the end of the world. No big deal. Just move on, call the next person. So keep that in mind too. This is a numbers game. You've got to talk to people, but you also have to be able to overcome that first objection, because the first objection is typically going to be I'm not interested or I'm sticking with my same agent. That one happens a lot as well. You want to run through that one, Joe?
Yeah, the sticking with the same agent.
Yeah. You know what, Joe? No, I'm just going to stick with my same agent.
Yeah, Michael, I completely understand you're going to stick with the same agent. And just out of curiosity, what's the importance for you to want to stay with that same agent?
I mean, they just said they could reactivate the house and get it back on, and we need to get this thing sold.
Okay, sounds good. And what did they do previously that they're going to do differently this time to get the house sold?
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't really talk about that.
Okay, sounds good. And it sounds like they probably did everything they could to get the home sold previously, and yet it didn't sell. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I'm sure they did everything they could, and I'm convinced that it's not for a lack of effort. I think it's most likely in the approach. Wouldn't you agree?
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and Michael, you can't afford to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result, can you?
No, I guess not.
Yeah, and I'm convinced that's why your house needs a new approach, and that's exactly why we should meet, so I can show you exactly how my approach is different and what I'll do specifically to get your house sold.
Yeah, I guess it couldn't hurt to hear what you have to say.
Okay, perfect. What works better for you, the evenings or the afternoons?
We can do evenings.
Okay, how about tonight at 6 or tomorrow at 5?
Let's do tonight.
Okay, sounds good. I'll see you tonight at 6.
Okay, sounds good. Cool, good job. So planning doubt, right? Because that's what happens to a lot of people. Like, well, we're just going to relist it. It's easy. They say they can just reactivate it. The house expired, this or that. But keep that in mind. So Joe did a good job planning doubt. So totally understand. I can appreciate your loyalty to your last agent. And one of my concerns is what are they going to do differently this time that they didn't do the first time to ensure your property actually sells? Planning doubt. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. We didn't talk about that. And that's oftentimes what people will say. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. We didn't, or they said they're going to do more open houses. That's fantastic. They're going to be more proactive and do more open houses. And were you aware that only 5% of homes actually sell from an open house? You can't really have only a 5% success rate on getting your home sold. Wouldn't you rather have a better chance of getting your home sold and at least hearing what I have to say and how I can take some time to share with you my proactive marketing approach? So it's just planning doubt when they say I'm going to stick with my same agent. And also to ask, did they sign paperwork already, right? Because I think that's an important thing as well. If they sign paperwork, we already signed paperwork, we already listed, move on, don't go behind the sign. So that's important as well. So drop more questions in though if you have them. Joe, let's roll on real quick to let's go through some internet leads. How about that?
Perfect.
All right, so internet leads. So keep in mind, again, internet leads. Name of the game here is numbers game. So internet leads, we know that if we're generating, and not all internet leads are created equal. What do I mean by that? Meaning that if I spend $250 on a Zillow lead, my chances of converting that should be higher than a $5 Facebook lead. The reason it should be higher is because that Zillow lead oftentimes is asking for wanting to see the property. So that lead's coming in, they're saying, I'd like to see 123 Main Street. And so typically those people that are requesting information to go see properties should be further along in the sale process than maybe like a $5 Facebook lead that we've generated from Vulcan 7 or Bold Trail now. That timeline of those people might be a little bit longer. So typically if I'm spending Zillow, I should have higher conversion because they're further along in the process. If I'm spending and doing Bold Trail or Vulcan 7 type leads, typically I have to realize those people, most of them are 12 to 18 months out. If I get 100 leads, I'm shooting for 3 to 5% conversion, meaning that if I get 100 internet leads, I spend $500 on 100 internet leads. 80 of those are going to be garbage. 15 are going to do something in the next 12 to 18 months, and 3 to 5 are going to do something now. So I have to be able to get really good at having these conversations and following up. Let's roll into it though. Internet lead.
Yeah, one thing I was going to add real quick is with the new form. So obviously now we have to have a signed buyer's agency before we show any single house. I know myself including a lot of agents, what they would do is when a particular buyer reaches out, say it's on Zillow or through a Facebook ad, and they want to see a specific home, we would kind of use that first house as our, appointment for our buyer's agency and buyer's consultation. So I think it's important now to realize that, hey, you're going to have to get some sort of signed agreement from them before you can even meet them at that particular house. So I think it's important to add when you are having that conversation or the initial conversation with the buyer.
Agreed, definitely. So what's that look like for you now?
Yeah, so Michael, what would be a good email for you?
Michael@michael.com.
Okay, perfect. And Michael, I know you had mentioned earlier that you said if you were to make an offer on this particular property, you would allow me to represent you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. So would it be all right with you if I just sent you over a buyer's agency agreement for this specific property, just simply stating that I would be your agent if you were to purchase this house?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, sounds good. I will get that out to you. And then if you have any questions, feel free to follow up with me and I'll give you a call here shortly once I send it to review it with you.
Okay, sounds good. Pretty simple. Yeah, there you go. Good job. Yeah. All right, let's run through. Yeah, so that's easy, right? I mean, I think it's easy. I think it's just an extra step, but it's getting that document signed now prior to showing the property. So let's roll into the actual like full blown internet, and then we can hit on that objection again too. So I'm an internet lead. I've just hit Joe's website, and he's calling me within the first 5 minutes. Keep in mind that's very important as well. When you get internet leads, speed to lead is super important. So if I get an internet lead, I'm pretty much dropping what I'm doing unless I'm on a listing appointment or showing property, and I'm calling that lead immediately. So let's go for it.
Hi,
Hello.
is this Michael?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Michael, my name is Joe Geary. I'm actually with Network Global Real Estate, and I saw you recently on our website looking at some homes. I just wanted to see how soon you're looking to be in your next home.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking right now. I'm not really in the market.
Okay, and I completely understand you're just kind of looking right now. And Michael, if we were able to find you that perfect home, is that something you would consider sooner rather than later?
I mean, it would have to have everything I wanted, but maybe.
Okay, and what would that perfect home look like for you?
Well, we definitely want to stay in the Baldwin area. We're here now. We're just looking to get into a bigger house. We're looking for at least 4 beds and something, with a little bit of a bigger yard.
Okay, so it looks like you're wanting to be in Ballin with a bigger house, at least 4 bedrooms, and with a bigger yard.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, perfect. And just out of curiosity, how long have you been looking for a home?
We just started looking. We're renting right now, so our lease is up in September. Um, so we've just been kind of casually looking online. We haven't really gone out or looked at anything yet. Just stuff online. And I saw this property. It looked interesting because it had a pool, and that kind of piqued my interest.
Okay, sounds good. So it sounds like your lease is up by September. So if we were able to get you in a home by September, before September, it sounds like that'd be beneficial for you.
Yeah, I mean, we have the option to go month to month, so it's not like a huge rush. But we would prefer. We're kind of outgrown. We've outgrown this place, and so we'd like to get into something bigger.
Okay, perfect. And Michael, have you spoken with any lenders or banks yet about getting pre-approved for your next home?
No, we filled something out online, but we haven't heard from anybody.
Okay, I completely understand. And unfortunately, that's pretty typical with a lot of lenders. So, Michael, what I'd love to do is have one of our lenders that we work closely with reach out to you to help you get approved and also answer some questions that you might have about financing and kind of give you an estimate on what you could expect to pay for your next home. When would be a good time where I could have my lender reach out to you?
Yeah, no, I'm not sure I'm like ready for that yet, honestly.
Okay, and Michael, it sounds like if you don't find a home by September, that you might consider renewing your lease.
Well, we can go month to month, so
Month to month.
yeah,
Okay, perfect. So, Michael, I know you had mentioned earlier if we were able to find you that perfect home, that is something you consider, correct?
yeah. I mean, my wife, she's ready to move. I mean, we have outgrown this place; it's too small for us. But yeah, I just don't know if I'm ready to like talk to a lender or commit to that.
Yeah, I understand completely. And could I share a concern that I have with you?
Sure.
Yeah, Michael, my concern is that if we find you that perfect home and you and your wife absolutely love it and you want to make an offer on it and we don't have a pre-approval, there's a very likely chance that that seller won't even consider our offer. And there's a high chance that another buyer could come in that is pre-approved and end up beating us out on that home. And is that something you'd want to happen?
No, definitely not. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So our blender could actually give you a call sometime today. Would you have any availability later this morning or sometime this afternoon?
I guess you could call me later today.
Later today, would there be a good time frame?
I get off work at like 4, so anytime after 4 would be fine.
Anytime after 4? Okay, perfect. I will have our lender reach out after 4. And just out of curiosity, Michael, what would you say your price range is?
I don't know. We use like a mortgage calculator. I'm thinking like 350, but I'm not
Uh,
100%.
Around 350?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I can get you set up for that. And one last thing I love to do, Michael, is I definitely want your wife to be a part of this process and also find out what's important to her in the next home.
Mhm.
So I love to set up a time where we can all get together for about 15 or 20 minutes and just talk a little bit more about the home buying process. And you did mention this is your first home, correct?
Yeah, we are. We will be first time home buyers. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I definitely love to fill you and your wife in on the home buying process. Make sure I answer any questions or concerns that you might have. and then also just figure out a little bit more on what's important to you in your next home. So hypothetically, if we all were to meet, what typically works better for you, the evenings or the afternoons?
Afternoons work better usually.
Okay, so I actually have some availability this afternoon at 4. Do you think tomorrow at 4:30 might be better for you and your wife?
Yeah, we both get off work early tomorrow, so let's do tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. And my office is actually located in Chesterfield. Is that a convenient location for you and your wife?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Yeah.
Okay, sounds great. Well, Michael, is this a good cell phone number for you?
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. So what I'll do as soon as we get off the call, I will send you over the address of our office. And then I also have your email here. It says michael@yahoo.com. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. I'll also send you some information about myself as well as our office address there as well. And I'll just give you a call midday tomorrow just to confirm that tomorrow afternoon is still a good time for you. How does that sound?
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect. I will see you then.
Cool. Good job. All right, very good job. Good job. So he did a good job of uncovering motivation, where we're moving. They don't have a home to sell because that's a big part of this as well. Some of these internet leads, a good majority actually, maybe half may have a potential home they would need to sell as well. So he found out just from asking questions that I was renting, that I didn't need to sell. One thing with the lender too, if you get pushback on the lender, you can always say there's no cost, no obligation. So I think that's an important thing as well. People think like, oh, if I'm talking to a lender, that's a big step. I don't want to be locked into anything. And so you can utilize just that, look, this is no cost, no obligation whatsoever for you to speak with our lender. It's just going to be more of a fact-finding conversation for you. So that way you can feel more comfortable about the loan programs that are available to you and feel more comfortable overall about the home buying process. So that's another way too of letting them know that it doesn't cost anything to talk to the lender. They're not obligated to use the lender. It's just a conversation. Really, the lender doesn't even have to pull credit yet, but they can just talk and learn about the different loan programs that are available, to see what's out there and learn a little bit more about the process. And then you did a good job of setting up the appointment as well. How often, Joe, are you doing Zooms rather than in-person appointments?
Personally, I prefer to do Zooms just because there's a higher likelihood they're actually going to show up just because for a buyer's appointment versus a listing appointment, because a listing appointment we're coming to them. So they don't have to do much work. They don't have to get in the car and leave their house. So there's a good chance they're going to be there versus a buyer's consultation. They actually have to get in the car, drive to our office and show up. So it's less likely that they're going to show up for that. So I'd say a Zoom, it's much easier for them to get on and you can still accomplish the same thing face to face. So typically I prefer to do a Zoom just because it's a lot easier. You're still getting that face to face interaction.
Yeah, agreed. So in 2020, we shifted to Zoom appointments. Keep in mind COVID, right? Once COVID happened, we were forced to do a ton of Zoom appointments. And I agree with Joe. It works really well. You're going to see the conversion rate for people showing up on Zoom appointments much higher than coming into the office. But having an in-office type setting appointment is not a bad thing as well. And here's the thing, and this is what I always say, if a lead shows up for either the Zoom or they come into the office, they're committed, right? Like they're a much more committed buyer than somebody that's like, well, just send me some houses, and if we see something, we'll let you know. But if they're taking the time out of their day to sit down and talk with you, they're buying into the process of wanting to purchase a home, and that's what you want. And that's why it's so important too to get in the habit of setting these appointments. And I agree, Zoom is, I think, better in some regards, just because, again, the conversion rate's higher. It's less time generally for you and them, so you can just jump on it from a computer anywhere. So Zoom works really well. So keep that in mind. You can set buyer consultations. I wouldn't, in listing appointments, generally we need to go to the house to be able to see the house to price it. So you want to continue to go to people's property to look at listing appointments. But buyer consultations, yeah, work really, really well via Zoom. So just keep that in mind. All right, good job. Anything else you could have done differently on that one?
I think, like you said, just mention that it's no obligation to talk to the lender. Just make it a little bit more relaxed so they don't have to pull credit or anything of that sort.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important too, because there are a lot of buyers, kind of the objection that you gave me is I just want to wait to get approved until I find the right house. So I think, again, just creating that urgency on, hey, if you find the perfect house and you're not approved and you absolutely love it, there is a chance that you can miss out on it. So that's why we should get approved now instead of waiting until you do find that house.
Yeah, agreed. Right. Yeah, good job. Good job. All right, I will do one now. If I'll be the agent, you be the buyer.
Sounds good. Hello.
Okay. Ring, ring. Hi, is Joe available?
Yeah, this is Joe.
Hey, Joe. My name's Michael Nettemeyer with Network Global, and I was giving you a call because I saw you were looking at some homes on our website, and I was checking in to see how I might be able to help out with your home search.
Oh, I think that must have been my wife that signed up because we're just kind of looking right now.
Oh, okay, so you're just kind of looking. Have you just started your search, or how soon are you wanting to be in your next home?
I'm not really too sure. I know my wife really wants to move, but I'm pretty happy with where we're at right now.
Yeah, totally understand. It's totally get that, but yeah, it's important to make the wife happy, correct?
Definitely.
Yeah, and now if we could find a house that's perfect for you and your wife, do you think it's something that you might consider moving on?
I mean, maybe, but it just seems like the interest rates are really high right now.
So interest rates are higher than they have been in the past in, in 2020, 2021, 2022. But from a historical perspective, we're still actually below the average rate of the life of the mortgage. Over the life of the mortgage, the average interest rate's about 8%. And right now we're in the upper sixes. And what kind of interest rate were you looking for?
I mean, I have some buddies that bought a house a couple years ago and they locked in at like 4%, which would be really nice because we have like I think a 5% interest rate on our house right now.
Okay, so you're at 5% right now, and then yeah,
Hmm.
and so totally get that. Yeah, I would love for rates to go to 4%. And to be honest, I study the market and I follow a lot of economic advisors as well, and all signs are indicating that we might see a little bit of a rate drop toward the end of the year, but nothing significant like getting us back into the 5% or 4% or anything like that, at least for the next few years. And so we may see rates drop maybe 6.5% potentially by the end of the year, but my concern is with waiting, if we wait until rates get back to 4 or 5%, we might be waiting for a long time. And it sounds like you mentioned you've got your interest rate locked in at 5%. And so would you need to sell your property prior to purchasing a new home?
Probably.
Okay. And do you have an idea of what your home is worth in the market today?
I know Zillow said it's worth like 475, but I don't think that's accurate.
Okay. Are you thinking it's worth more or less?
Probably more just because we've done a lot of updates since we've been here. So I think maybe closer to 500.
Okay, yeah, and you may be absolutely right. To be honest, Zillow has a confidence score on that Zestimate of only about 1 out of 5. So typically, those estimates are not very accurate. What I could do, Joe, is I could put together a market analysis, and that way, can really compare properties in your area and what they're selling for to give you a really accurate indication of what your home could sell for in this market. I mean, well, I could drop that by. It actually, I'd be available to drop that by maybe tomorrow or on the next day. Would that work for you?
Yeah, that'd be fine because I'm kind of curious to see what it would be worth in the condition that it's in.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And one thing I could do is I could just stop by for 10 minutes or so and do a quick walkthrough. And I could kind of look at your home through the eyes of a buyer. And that way I can give you a really accurate indication of what your home could sell for. Would you be open to that?
Yeah, that'd be beneficial.
Okay. Would tomorrow work or would Friday be better?
We could do Friday.
Friday. What typically works better for you, afternoons or evenings?
We could do the evening.
Evening. Would 4 o'clock work or maybe six be better?
Let's do 6 o'clock.
Six. Okay. Perfect. So it looks like when you sign up on our website as well, you sign up at joe@gmail.com. Is that a good email for you?
Yeah, that is.
Perfect. So I'm going to send you some information about myself and my company. And then what's a good address for me to come out to on Friday?
123 Main Street.
123 Main Street. Perfect, Joe. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you Friday and you and your wife Friday at 6 o'clock.
Sounds good.
Okay, so what did I do there? I shifted. Once I knew he had a home to sell, I planted a couple of seeds, but I shifted my appointment to more of a seller appointment because I know now he's got a house to sell. So I'm shifting my conversation completely to let's focus on getting his home sold now. So if I can show him, hey, we might be able to get you top dollar for your house. We might be able to get you more than 475. Are you aware of what your homes could sell for in the market? No, we're not. Why don't I just stop by for 10 or 15 minutes and share with you exactly what's selling in your area so we can give you an accurate price on what your home could sell for? Most people might be open to that. Well, can't hurt. And then some people say, well, is that really a listing appointment? Well, I'm going out and I'm talking to somebody and I'm getting face to face with somebody that I didn't know 5 minutes ago. And now I'm going to share with them information on their property. When I'm on my listing presentation now, I'm going to share with them what their home could sell, how I market properties, and then I'm going to uncover more about what their motivation is for wanting to buy, where they're wanting to go, what's important to them in their next home. So keep that in mind. It's not a bad thing to shift this appointment now to a seller appointment because they do have a home to sell. And now I can show them as well that even though he's at a 5% interest rate, at 6.5%, depending on what they're going to buy, let's look and see what the prices might be on those properties. And so for me, it's worth going on this appointment, even though I don't know if he's qualified, even though I don't know if he's pre-approved, even though I don't know a whole lot about their history or their background or their motivation, I just set a listing appointment and I'm going to get in front of a potential seller that might have potentially sell their property and buy a new one. So think about that. When they have a home to sell, you can shift the conversation to more of a seller appointment and go get a listing. And now they're a listing and a buyer. So thoughts are on that?
Yeah, 100% agree. And it was very no obligation too. So it made me feel very comfortable because you weren't like, hey, I'm going to come out and show you how to get your home sold. You were more so, hey, I'm going to come out and just show you the numbers. And then once you get out, obviously, you can dig deeper and then try to put some more urgency under them.
Yeah, exactly. So just keep that in mind. Those are some little things there. Also, too, flip back to expireds real quick because we're talking about sellers. Commission. When I asked Joe about commission, I don't know if we touched on this, but don't ever just say it's 6%, right? Like somebody's like, "What's your commission?" That's 6%. Okay, thanks. They heard on the news or on the radio or on TV or they talked to another realtor that was going to do it for 1% or 2% or whatever the case may be. So always negotiable. My commission, the investment, my services is completely negotiable, and we can discuss that when I come out. That's as simple as the conversation has to be. It is rare people will continue to push. We've done this a lot. It's very rare people will be like, well, what is it? How much is it? It's very rare. Most people say, okay, yeah, sounds good. You might get 1 out of like 50 that are like, well, what is the commission? If they're asking, what's your commission? That's a great question. The investment in our services is actually completely negotiable, and that's something we can discuss when I come out. What works better for you, this evening or tomorrow be better? It's very rare that person's like, well, no, wait a minute. Tell me what the commission is. Right? So just keep that in mind as well. It's a quick little breeze over because I don't want to say it's 6%. They're going to say, yeah, no thanks, hang up. I want to go out. I want to show them everything I do to get home sold. I want to share with them my value. And I want to get that to the point when they're like, well, what's your commission? And I tell them 6%. They're relieved that it's only 6% because there's so much that I do to get their home sold that they were thinking it might be higher. So keep that in mind too. It's completely negotiable. We're running out of time here too, Joe. Let's do a circle call as well. Let's run through a circle dial. So circle dialing. And again, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. Circle dialing. We're calling around a neighborhood. So maybe we just sold a property. Maybe somebody in our office just sold a property and we want to go sell more homes in that property. Or maybe we have somebody that's looking in a specific subdivision and there's no homes for sale in that subdivision. So we're going to call around that neighborhood and try to find somebody that might want to sell their property. That's what circle calling is. Circle prospecting. We're basically drawing a circle around a neighborhood, around a house. And we're calling everybody in that subdivision to see if they would want to sell their property. So take it away, Joe. Circle prospecting.
All right,
hello.
Hi, my name's Joe. I'm actually a realtor, and your neighbor's home on 123 Main Street just recently sold for top dollar. And I was just reaching out to see if you might know of anyone else who's considered selling in the near future.
No, nobody I can think of.
Okay, well, I appreciate you thinking about that. And just out of curiosity, if you get top dollar for your home, is that something you would ever consider?
Yeah, it's funny you called. My wife and I were talking about that the other day. If we could get like a fantastic offer, we might. Or everything's for sale, right?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And do you have a specific number in mind at this time?
Not really. We saw the one down the street sold for like 500. I think ours is nicer, and we have a pool in the backyard, so probably like 550.
550. Okay, perfect. And just out of curiosity, have you had anybody come out recently to kind of give you a market analysis to show you what your house could be worth in today's market?
No, not at all. No, we just, like I said, we just honestly just started kicking around the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And a great place to start is at least to have someone come out and kind of show you what the numbers would be. That way you at least have an idea on what you could get for your large investment. So, Michael, would you be open to having myself come out for 10 or 15 minutes just to kind of give you a breakdown of what the numbers would look like and what your house would be worth in today's market?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're quite ready for that.
Okay, I completely understand. And out of curiosity, if you were to get this house sold, where do you think you might be moving to?
We definitely would stay in the area. We're just in a 2-story, so the goal, we want to get into like either a villa or ranch.
Okay, so it sounds like you're looking to downsize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And how soon were you wanting to do that?
Just depends. I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot available right now on, villas or ranch homes that we've liked. So I kind of would almost maybe want to find that other home first before we even sold this.
Okay, absolutely. And Michael, have you ever heard of something called off-market homes?
No, what's that?
So just like I'm talking to you today, I talk to several hundreds of sellers on a monthly basis. And a lot of these sellers have mentioned to me that they would be open to selling, but they don't want to formally list their house on the market. So I actually have an entire database of these potential sellers that would want to possibly sell their house. And they told me that if I brought them a buyer, they would be willing to sell. And you could be that buyer where you don't have to compete with any other offers. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I haven't heard of that. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michael, I would love to send these over to you. However, I'd be doing you a disservice because I'd just be sending you a blanket email with a bunch of properties that you know nothing about. So one thing I'd love to do is set up a time with you and your wife to talk about what's important to you in your next home. That way I can weed out the properties that don't fit your criteria and get you a great list of qualified properties that could be a good fit for you and your wife. How does that sound?
That sounds good. I mean, could you just email me that list?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I'd love to email you that list. However, I'd be wasting a lot of your time just because I'd be sending you a ton of properties that might not fit your criteria. So that's exactly why we need to meet so I can find out exactly what's important to you and your wife in your next home.
Yeah, I guess it couldn't hurt. But I'm not going to sign anything. I just want to.
Yeah. No, this would be no obligation whatsoever, just to at least give you and your wife an idea on what your next perfect home looks like, as well as give you some free information on what your house would be worth when you do decide to sell it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that could work. Yeah, we could do that.
Okay, perfect. Do the evenings or afternoons work better for you?
Afternoons are usually fine.
Okay. How would today at 3 or would tomorrow at 4 be better?
Let's do today at 3.
Today at 3? Okay, perfect. And just to confirm, Michael, your address that I have here is 123 West Street.
It is, yes.
Perfect. I will plan on seeing you there at 3. And what would be a good email so I can send you my information?
You can send it to michael@gmail.com.
Michael@gmail.com. Perfect. And Michael, is this a good cell phone number for you?
Yeah, it is.
Fantastic. I will go ahead and send you my contact now. That way you have my cell phone number, and I'll plan on seeing you and your wife today at 3.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Perfect.
Good job. Very good. So cool. So, okay, something to keep in mind, because people will be like, oh, that seemed easy. Like 3 out of 100 are going to go like that. Right. So, and that's what we're not practicing like the ones that they just hang up on you, because a lot of those will happen. So when you do these calls, something to keep in mind, you're going to just fall into a few. If you talk to 100 people or make 100 calls today, you're going to get 2 or 3 that are going to be super easy like that. And you're going to set appointments, but you're going to have to get through like 95 or 97 that are going to be, no, not interested. Don't ever call me again. I'm on the do not call list. Take me off your list. Don't ever call me. Stuff like that. Those are things you can't really practice because you just move on, right? Yep. Thanks. Sorry to bother you. Have a great day. Move on to the next. But when you make enough of these calls, you're going to lump into these calls that are just kind of like, well, yeah, actually, we were thinking about it. Happens all the time. It's funny you called. We were just talking last night about wanting to move. It's interesting. Oh, wow, what a coincidence that you called. It happens all the time. So you have to be able to uncover, one, you have to do the calls and talk to enough people. And when you do that, these conversations just pop up where people are like, oh, I would consider. Now, something else Joe did a good job of is talking about off-market properties. This works really well on circle calls like this. It works well on people that are internet leads that are like, well, we just can't find a house. Or even, oh, we already have an agent. You can say, that's fantastic. You're working with an agent. Out of curiosity, have you signed a buyer agency agreement with them? No, we haven't signed anything. We just met at an open house. Well, that's fantastic. And I'm assuming they're sending you properties that are on the market. Yes. Are they sending you off-market properties? So what Joe did there was you hook people with these off-market properties. And what are off-market properties? Well, Joe has done a ton of circle prospecting over the years. So he does have his own database of people that would consider selling that maybe aren't ready to formally list. So he can go to that database and see if any of these properties match what this new person is looking for. But keep in mind, if you haven't done circle prospecting and don't have a big list of that, you do have access to expired listings. You do have access to canceled listings. You do have access to withdrawn listings that have all come off the market that haven't sold. That is a database of off-market properties. You have a database of the off-market properties, the office listings that are withheld, right? So you've got that in our brokerage. There's 10 or 15 of those in there right now. We need to get more of those put in there. But that's access to off-market properties as well. You can go on our Facebook group and drop in who's got anything coming soon or got anything out there in a specific area that they might consider selling. There are lots of ways to find off-market properties. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind. That works really, really well when utilizing the off-market script. So we have a question here. Do you use the same companies for these numbers? We do. So for circle prospecting, yeah, Land Voice, RedX, Vulcan 7, Mojo, all of those sell circle prospecting information as well. Remind and RPR. I use RPR a lot for pricing. So I make sure that when we do pricing on listings, we're using RPR. We're using the AVM through the tax records. We're using this estimate. We're using price per square foot and RPR. Check out the pricing homes videos for that. But what else, Joe, on? So, yeah, the same companies, they'll sell all that same data for circle prospecting. Keep in mind, too, circle prospecting is extreme cold calling. So what I mean by it's a cold call. An internet lead or an expired, it's a little bit warmer because, an internet lead, they at least search on your website. You can kind of see what they're looking at online. An expired, they have a need or want to sell. A for sale by owner, which we didn't hit on today, but they obviously want to sell. Circle prospecting, you are cold calling people and seeing if they want to sell. So it's a big numbers game. And so you have to get a lot of rejection on these calls, but it does work. And typically the people that like this conversation Joe and I just had, I'm typically, if Joe comes out to meet with me, I'm probably not interviewing anybody else because I wasn't even thinking about really selling. So now all of a sudden Joe becomes my realtor. So what else, Joe? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'd say most of the success you're going to get from these calls is nurtures too, because it's very rare that someone's going to be ready from a cold circle call to sell immediately. So a big win when you're circle calling is to add someone to your database that wants to sell, whether it's in a year or 5 years down the line, as long as you follow up, you're likely going to be the only agent that they interview. And I've seen that several times is when you circle call and you follow up with someone, chances are you're going to be their go-to guy or girl whenever they're ready to list.
Definitely. Totally agreed. So keep that in mind. A way you can add value as well, even if they're not ready to list, but they're going to do something at some point in the future, offer the market report. So with Bold Trail KV Core, you can send them out a monthly market report that's automated. So it would go something like this. Joe, completely understand you're not ready to sell. And one of the things I do for a lot of your neighbors is I send out a monthly market update to keep everybody up to date with everything selling in the area. Would you be offended if I emailed you that monthly market update?
No, you can send it to me.
Okay, fantastic. What's a good email that I could send that to?
Joe@gmail.com.
Fantastic, Joe. I'm going to make sure I get that sent out to you today. And then every month moving forward, I'll get that market update sent out to you.
Sounds good.
So there we go. So now I just added Joe to my database. I've got notes, however the conversation went. Maybe he's a year out. Maybe he's going to do something in after the first of the year. Maybe he's going to do something in 2 years, whatever the case may be. Got his name, his phone number, his email, his home address, and I've got him on my monthly market update, which takes about 30 seconds to set up in KV Core Bold Trail. And now I am keeping in touch with Joe over the next few months to a year or however long it takes for him to want to sell his house. So keep that in mind as well. This is a fantastic opportunity, making circle calls to add potential sellers to your database. Works really well. But again, it's effort, it's work. You got to sit on the phone. You got to talk to a lot of people. But what happens and what's cool about it is the more people you talk to, the more success you have, the more appointments you set, and the more homes you close. So it does work really well. So that's all we got for today. Anything to add, Joe, before we wrap up here?
No, I'd say just definitely keep practicing these scripts because, like you said at the beginning of the call, Michael, it took me 6 years to get to this point. And obviously, I still have room for improvement. So it's not going to happen overnight, but don't wait to get perfect at the scripts to start calling. Just do it now. And then as time progresses, you'll get better and better.
You absolutely will. And it's going to be uncomfortable when you start doing it, and it's going to feel weird. And you're going to, like I used to do back in the day when I first started, I'd be like, please don't answer, please don't answer, please don't answer. Like I knew I was supposed to be calling, but I sure didn't want people to answer. And you know what happened was eventually I got really good at this. And the worst thing that ever happened to me was somebody yelled at me. I didn't get hurt. You know what I mean? Like nothing bad happened. Like somebody yells at you. They tell you, don't ever call me again. Okay, cool. Move on to the next one, right? But if I have 20 people a day tell me, don't ever call me again, and one person says, yeah, come out and list my house, and I can make $8,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever the number is, it's a win, right? So just get tough skin at this, get good at taking rejection because there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of rejection in our business. I would much rather get rejected every day, though, and have a really successful business. If I get rejected 20 or 50 times today, but I sell a house, it's a win. So rejection is not the end of the world. It's going to happen. It's part of our life. It's part of our industry. So keep practicing, keep getting better at your scripts, keep making more calls. You're going to have a really, really good business. You go close and pen 32 homes 7 months into the year, like Joe. Works well. So that's all I got. Joe, appreciate you being on. Thanks for taking the time. If anybody has questions, again, if you're watching this on Facebook later, drop them in. We will help you. We'll get those answered. So appreciate it, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.